The meeting between French President Francois Hollande and the British Prime Minister is just the first. He's launching a week-long diplomatic push to form a unique coalition against ISIL. The United States is next, where Hollande will meet with U.S. President Barack Obama Tuesday morning. CCTV's Jessica Stone is joining us now. Jessica, the White House seems to be kind of lowering expectations about this visit, aren't they?
Very true, Mike. In fact, there is no question that this White House believes that the U.S. is doing its fair share on the fight against ISIL, saying, we organized the coalition against the terror group and are now leading it. The question Hollande will have to answer is, can he get Russia and the United States to find a way to work in concert, not in competition, against the terror group?
These actions confirm once again that we are at war.
In the wake of the horrific Paris terror attacks, a rallying cry. French President Francois Hollande is on a diplomatic tour meeting with U.S. President Barack Obama, German Chancellor Angela Merkel, and Russian President Vladimir Putin, trying to create a joint battle plan to defeat terror group ISIL in Syria.
I know very well that every country does not have the same interests, nor the same ideas, nor necessarily the same allies. But what's at stake here is putting an end to, destroying, an army that threatens the entire world and not only some countries more than others.
But what more is the United States willing to do without putting combat troops on the ground? When asked, White House officials prefer to talk about the coalition.
The success of this mission is dependent on 65 nations coming together, recognizing the common interests that they have here, and dedicating significant resources. And we have seen stepped-up contributions, even over the course of the last week, from members of that coalition.
All right, he took 9.5.
The White House says the U.S. is already supporting French airstrikes in Syria with refueling and targeting. And the U.S.-led coalition has already launched over 8,000 airstrikes against ISIL in Iraq and Syria. Coalition members are also training Iraqi forces. Russian warplanes are striking in Syria too, and likely to be part of the joint effort France proposes. In Turkey last week, Obama said he was trying to persuade Putin to focus all Russian airstrikes on ISIL, not forces opposed to Syrian President Bashar al-Assad.
That does not add to our efforts against ISIL. In some ways, it strengthens it because ISIL is also fighting many of those groups that the Russians were hitting.
Now remember, the U.S. is willing to work with Russia against ISIL if these conditions are met, but the Americans are also very afraid that by striking Syrian opposition forces, Russia will ensure those forces don't come to the negotiating table, leaving the efforts for a political transition in Vienna dead on arrival. Mike?
There's so much going on, though. The State Department with this rare warning today. Talk to us a little bit about that.
Well, we have to remember that and remind our global audience we're ahead of the Thanksgiving Day holiday, a lot of travel for Americans nationwide. And it seems to be tied to that. They're warning holiday travelers, don't be in big groups, watch yourself in transportation. You mentioned how unusual it is. We did see this after the Charlie Hebdo attacks, and we also saw a similar warning after the 9/11 attacks on the 10-year anniversary, for example, in 2011. But certainly not something we see every day. And in recent weeks, we've seen warnings in Afghanistan, Iraq, places that Americans that are not aid workers or journalists aren't likely to go. There definitely is a warning here about the impact that ISIL and its affiliates can have globally, you know, not just nationally, not just regionally, and not just in Europe.
Yeah.